Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. I've got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison. Also got quite a few stories about the wild stuff that actually happened when I was in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison and want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, second video, trying to get them up here quick tonight. Did the first one talking about that. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch it. But anyway, one of my friends, this is something I talked about way early on. I deleted the video months ago. Only a handful of people had watched it. But this is one that deserves a little bit more appreciation. Sean Pentard is Gus Fring from Breaking Bad come to life. Okay, Sean was probably about somewhere around 5'10", 5'11". I'd say around 180, 185 pounds of muscle. He was very fit. And he didn't cuss. Christian, devout Christian. If you were to try to fight him, he would have told you, I do not have time for this foolishness. Or however, do a Bohemian accent. But he looked kind of like Gus from Breaking Bad. I had a lot of conversations with this guy. This is definitely one of the biggest people in the drug game that I ever met. He was taking delivery of a quarter ton of coke every quarter, every 3 months. And he got caught in Canada. I don't know if he was doing business or vacation, but he fought extradition, but he accepted extradition on the premise that they were going to give him a lesser sentence. They didn't. They hit him with the book. He got more than 2, I think less than 3 decades. I think close to, 25 or so. He gets out in a handful of years, though. But basically, Sean was the man. He was it. He was the person for a lot of people, and his network was pretty insane, and it was pretty crazy. And I want to tell one story that he told me today. He told me a lot of stories. We became good friends. He talked about a lot of things. One of the things I was talking about whenever I was in prison and I broke up with my hussy ex-girlfriend was that I need to get a girl from another country, blah, 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 something like that, because I was like, one's here, I said, I'm with America. Now Casey, my fiance, is my high school crush. I'm with her. We're together and everything's all good. But back then, he started talking about different women from different places, and he says, you do not want a woman from, I can't remember if it's Brazil, where he says, they carry razors in their mouth, and if you upset them, they will cut you. And he's telling me different ones about different ones in different countries. I'm like, dang, Sean, you've been around all these different countries, all these different women. He said, why do you think my first and second marriage did not work? And I laughed when he said that, because he says it so dry and so bluntly. Okay? I was also looking at getting a used Maserati. I was looking through the car magazines, needed to get a car when I get out, and I saw that you get a Maserati for 30, 35, 40,000, which, sells for 100,000 brand new. He says, you do not want a Maserati. And I said, why not? He says, look at all those cars. How many miles do they have on them? I said, not a lot, like 20, 25,000. He says, they sell for this cheap because the transmission goes out at 30,000 miles, guaranteed. Then you are stuck with that bill. He said that they had to put they sent him a Maserati. It spoke the wrong language. It spoke like French or something. So he had to put it on a boat, ship it to the U.S., get it shipped back. So it was like 6 months. Then it came back. He said every which type of problem. So I'm like, well, better not do that. And ironically, whenever I got out of prison, I didn't even get a car. I took the money I used it for training, jiu-jitsu, judo, boxing. And I stayed without a car, and lived close to a gym that I could walk to. Put money into that. That was more important to me than material things. I'm not materialistic now, but at the time it seemed like maybe, a girl magnet or something like that, whatever. But anyway, one of the stories he told me was in addition to selling coke, he'd sell a whole lot of weed. And it was a long drive, and he had a driver that would drive long way, like 8 hours across the island, whatever, and he'd pick it up. And it was anywhere usually between, I think he said, like 800 to 900 pounds. Sometimes it would be 20 to 50 pounds under. Sometimes it would be 20 to 50 pounds over. It would not be exactly what it was supposed to be. But sometimes it'd be more, sometimes it'd be less. Then it consistently started being less. Then it started being less than 20 pounds under. Started consistently being about 50 or so pounds under every time. So there's never any overs anymore. What's going on? He knows what's going on. So he had somebody follow this guy across the whole drive to smuggle this weed back, and he saw that this guy was making a couple stops, dropping some of it off. He was selling some of the pack. And, with somebody like this, that's this high level in this stuff, I thought, what'd you do? I said, is he still around, or did he disappear? He says, why would I do that? Why would I? He says, now the Colombians, they like to prove a point. They like to do this. But he says, why would I take him out? He says, how will he pay me back then? He says, he can't pay me back if he's gone. I'm like, it makes sense. So what he did was, when this guy went to go pick it up and go in the first house where he was going to drop some of it off at, the guy walked in the house to sell some of this weed that didn't belong to him, that belonged to Sean. Sean's standing there with two big old bohemian dudes beside him. And the guy's like, uh-oh. And Sean says, sit down, we need to talk. And he tells him basically, I know what you're doing. I estimate you took about this much. So I'm going to take this much out of your money. The next this many trips, that's how you're going to pay me back. And you're never going to do this again. You get one chance. So the guy took a lesser cut. Then it started being a little bit back where it was supposed to be. But, you know, he gave the guy a chance. He didn't fire him. And in that type of job, you know, firing people, it ain't like getting fired from, you know, your local convenience store, McDonald's, somewhere like that. You know, go find another job. It's a little different, you know, a little too much. So, sounds like it all worked out with that one. He owned a chain of restaurants, and he loved to cook. The maintenance crews typically in prison are usually a bunch of hillbilly white guys. Know how to fix anything. The maintenance crew at Petersburg Low was a bunch of white guys, hillbilly guys. And Sean, you know, in color, like if you just look at him, he looks just like a black man, you know. Jamie, my buddy's like, said apparently like Bohemian. I don't know if it's stone rape, but that's what Jamie said. I don't know, but whatever. People are people to me. I don't think of things like that. But, you know, you had Sean and this group of people. He did not need money. He did not need money. He had money. He had more money he could spend in a lifetime, probably. I suppose he has it stashed away. Don't know. Didn't ask. Don't want to know. Certain things you don't ask. But he took this job in maintenance. Why? Why did he take this job? He took this job so then he could get certain things from the kitchen. Certain vegetables, certain foods that he could get access to through working in maintenance. See, maintenance, you go to different places, the kitchen, wherever, you give them a work order, they let you in. He had access to stuff that certain cooks and other people could not get. And he made the most incredible seafood fritters. Commissary at Petersburg had clams and oysters, smoked clams, smoked oysters in packs. And he chopped those clams, oysters up with vegetables. He had lard that he put in an office trash, never used, clean, unused. People use the trash cans to cook and things. And put the lard in there, and you put a stinger in there. A stinger's got two wires, two pieces of stainless steel that aren't touching. You submerge in the lard, plug it in, it bulls it. And then he drops these doughy things in there, gets them out, and it's a fritter. I never had a fritter before. Seafood fritter. Oh my God. Prison sucks. The time you can't get back. But oh my God. Made some food. Oh. We also had this device. It was a fan, you know, just a fan that blows. You could buy fans, but they were plastic fans. They had gotten a metal fan, like, you know, a steel fan, whatever. Took the blade off of it. They'd found a stove eye in the maintenance department, and they attached the stove eye to where the spinner of the fan would go. Set it here with the eye like this. You plug it in, the eye gets red hot. They welded a stainless steel thing to a piece of wood, and we had a stove in our room. There were outlets because it had no air conditioning. So, you know, you plug your little plastic fan in, and something else. When it's above 90 degrees, when it's like 100 degrees outside at Petersburg, it got so hot I thought my fan wasn't working. I put my face up to it, I didn't feel nothing. I saw the fan, but I didn't feel nothing. When it gets so hot, you don't even feel hot air. It just feels like nothing's happening. But anyway, that's beside the point. He was an incredible cook. Incredible cook. And I've got other stories about him that I've been holding back so much. I've been holding them back so hard because he has some of the very best stories that I've heard of any person ever. But one of the funny stories in which I actually got a little bit nervous because he's a very reserved, very calm person. And like I said, he wouldn't get in a fight if you challenged him. He'd be like, I don't have time for your foolishness, and leave. But everybody in there who knew, there was a fellow from North Carolina who was probably about 6.5 foot tall, 350-pound black dude, middle-aged man. He'd actually had a couple bodies. He got like a manslaughter or something on him, done time for that, and then he was doing drug time this time. He knew who Sean was. He's from the Carolinas, and he's like, yeah, he said, man, listen. And I've looked up since I've been out, and yeah, he was. He says, you don't understand. Like, this guy's like a gangster, tough as can be, getting impressed by anybody. He's impressed by Sean. But I said something to Sean. I told him, since he's so reserved and calm and embarrassed like, I said, when I get out, I'm going to send you a postcard. And it's going to have one of them Chippendales on it, so you get it handed to you in front of everybody. He said, what is this Chippendale you speak of? And I said, it's one of them men that wear them bikinis, them thongs, and they got the little bow ties on it. I will not open this in front of people. I said, it's a postcard. You don't open it. They just hand it to you. So everybody's going to see. He said, if you do this to me, I will have a sniper, and he will get you from 400 yards away. You will never see it coming. And I laughed, and I said, I was kidding, my man. He said, do not do this to me. And that was one thing he was serious about now. He wasn't playing about that Chippendale card. He wasn't having that. It was funny, though. And he was a very interesting person because you'd never guess it. Didn't typically lift weights, but he had a workout routine that he did in the building. It was a cubicle type setup, and you had pipes hanging from the ceiling that people do pull-ups and stuff on. He did pull-ups, workout like routine. He had a OCD like routine that he followed every day, and it was really interesting. And he told me different stories. He told me one story which, you know, it was wild because I actually saw this in a movie, I believe, later on, something like this, and it was the story that he had told me. But he told me a story way before the movie was ever made. He told me something about he had a private jet that he had chartered, and that the feds were following him. The CIA, DA, somebody was following him, and that they landed the plane in this little grass field, and they ran off and hid in the woods, and that they saw the feds land, and that the feds landed the plane, got off, and started running off looking for him, and then they laughed and ran back to the plane, and they flew off, and they got away from him that time. He told me stories like that. He also told me stories like, he said, you know, just for instance stories. He says, like, for instance, if I was going to do business with you, I would send my cousin to watch everything you do for a month. And then I know who you are. I know how you operate. I know if you are my type of people or not. Smart. He was incredibly smart. I mean, like, literally mastermind level of intelligence that I cannot even begin to explain, like, how impressive this was. And I need to reach out to him. He was a very good friend. I do need to send him a letter or something. You know, it's not as easy in the feds with it. They got to send you a request. You got to accept it with the email and state you just add somebody on JPay or whatever. But with him, he's in the feds. But he's a very interesting person. Very interesting. One of the most interesting people that I've ever met. Been more places, done more things. His life was literally a movie. Yeah. I will tell more stories about Sean, my friend. He's a good guy. He seems like he's changed his life. He's living for God now. Doesn't cuss. Lives a certain way. And it seems like he's changed and like he's going to get out and live the rest of his life happily. Enjoy the rest of the years he's got. He won't be that. I think he'll be in his mid-50s when he gets out. So he's got plenty of life to live. But that's a lot of time to lose. Over 20 years of your life to federal prison. Especially when they promised one deal, then went back on it once they got you over. That sucks. Anyway, if you liked the video, press the like button. If not, that's 13 minutes and 38 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. Having terrible heartburn today, so sorry for my stuttering a little bit, but I feel like I was going to, you know, it's bothering me tremendously, so I do apologize for the little stutter and missteps that I had throughout that video, but I hope you guys liked it.